United Airlines Flight 389, a Boeing 727 similar to this one, a flight from New York to Chicago, August 16, 1965. The facts are solid. The captain's voice was recorded by a traffic controller. The flight path was tracked on highly sophisticated NORAD equipment. There was no mechanical malfunction. 3 highly qualified pilots were on the flight deck. They could see Chicago in the distance. The aircraft descended perfectly normally to 6,000 feet. It was then instructed to level out according to regular procedure. But the aircraft did not level out. It continued to descend for 3 minutes until it flew right into Lake Michigan.
There was no attempt to arrest the descent. It was a clear day just like this. In fact, up until 1 second before the United Airlines Flight 389 hit the water, killing all 30 aboard, the pilot was talking to air traffic control about his altimeter setting. He was looking at his altimeter, he was setting it, he was paying attention to his altimeter. The co-pilot was flying the airplane. He could see the water below him, he could see the city of Chicago in the distance there, about 15 miles away. In light of these facts, the National Transportation Safety Board concluded that no possible explanation can be offered for the action of this crew.
No possible explanation. And yet there is another case involving exactly the same elements. An altimeter charting a path to certain death.
Right here is where Detroit Departure Control cleared the Sabreliner that was owned by General Motors to begin its approach into Pontiac. Up about 5 miles is where the Sabreliner began its descent. And beyond that, another 2 miles is where the Sabreliner finally crashed into the ground. At no time was there anything wrong with the aircraft itself. It was under full control of the pilot throughout the flight.
Here there is miraculously a survivor. He was the co-pilot that night, a man with vast experience and a spotless record, Howard Herbst.
I believe it was something like this. They said, you're cleared to 2,700 feet, cleared for the approach, contact Pontiac Tower at the outer marker. And 2,700 feet is the altitude for the procedure turn. So we descended the 300 feet to the 2,700 feet. That I know we were at. I checked that altitude, and both of us did. Everything was going along smoothly. We were doing the checklist, and when I got done with it, I saw the trees at the end of that checklist.
Why then did he descend below minimums that night? Why did he fly that Sabreliner down into the ground?
I have no idea, really. I wish I could answer it, but I don't. It just happened, and the next thing I knew, we were in the trees, but I have no knowledge of why or no answer.
Howard Herbst has no answer, nor do the investigators who pored over the wreckage.
To understand how baffling this is, one must appreciate how meticulous these investigators are and the elaborate technology at their disposal. For example, they can determine 6 months after an accident whether or not a tiny indicator light was lit on impact.
Electronic microscopes tell these investigators whether there are scratches on a tiny metal part, whether there are scratches on scratches, which might indicate a different sort of structural failure. A highly scientific examination of every piece of wreckage can reconstruct the state of an aircraft as it existed at the moment of impact. When the investigators finally conclude that the cause of a crash is undetermined, it can be assumed that the mystery is very real indeed. Not just civilian aircraft, but military aircraft. In 1956, the CF-100 was the backbone of the Royal Canadian Air Force. A reliable jet fighter checked out with military precision every time it left the ground. Flown by young men with the razor-sharp reflexes of the fighter pilot. On On May 15, 1956, a plane like this took off over the Great Lakes. Only seconds after its last routine transmission, it disappeared off radar. It was subsequently learned that the pilot had dropped 33,000 feet to his death without uttering a single word of distress.
Who was on that aircraft was here the other night talking to us about it.
In many cases, the circumstances are so mysterious as to give rise to theories that range from conservative scientific evaluations to fanciful speculations on the forces of outer and inner space. There appears to be, for example, a particular area of such heavy devastation as to be beyond the possibilities of coincidence. It is a line that extends, curiously enough, into the Bermuda Triangle. It is called the Agonic Line.
No mechanical problems at all.
The Agonic Line, or the line of zero magnetic variation, is the line along which magnetic north and true north are precisely the same direction. Now, how this would be related to a transportation accident or how it could cause such a tragedy has never been explained, but the fact remains that a number of such disasters have occurred on or near this line. For example, the disappearance of Northwest Airlines Flight 2501, the disappearance of November 212 Alpha Delta, the implausible last actions of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
In searching for explanations, Jay Gourlay meticulously examined 86 air disasters and 45 shipping disappearances. In many cases, the only possible explanations seemed to be outside the range of conventional wisdom. Some could be explained by the vortex theory, the so-called black holes where matter drops in and out of space-time continua. Then there's the fact that the Great Lakes have heavy deposits of iron ore. There are well-founded theories of the magnetic field of the Earth reversing itself, of magnetic earthquakes which could destroy navigational capabilities. In 3 cases, the disappearance of Northwest Airlines Flight 2501 over Milwaukee, the crash of a PA-22 into the shore ice of Lake Michigan, and the sudden destruction of the Edmund Fitzgerald, unidentified flying objects were independently and reliably reported in the disaster area.
And so there are many theories: strange atmospheric forces, electromagnetic anomalies, the Agonic Line, psychic forces, even the presence of UFOs. As for my own opinion, after 2 years of research, none of these theories is adequate. None of them is verifiable. Yet none can be discounted.
Jay Gourlay continues to gather evidence, but as his search continues, the clues do not offer a ready explanation.